up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing the latest campaign expansion for Marvel Champions, the card game. That's right, it is the Galaxy's Most Wanted. The Guardians of the Galaxy are making their first foray into the world of Marvel Champions. This is, of course, published once again by Fantasy Flight Games and designed by Michael Boggs and Caleb Grace, but this time they are joined by a new designer who may have worked on some of the other expansions. I can't remember. Some of the hero packs. It is Haltom. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who will tell you more about the game itself.
So it is a cooperative game intended for ages 14 and above that plays in about 1 to 2 hours. It's a 1 to 4 player game. And in the 4 player game, we have seen the game go a little bit longer than 2 hours.
Yeah, I think we've seen it clear the 3 hour mark, maybe somewhere between that 4 hour mark even. Especially difficulty can crank it up as well. You can get away playing with some younger players if you also give them a hand, or depending on the content and the setting of the game. So I'd say probably 10 and above is a solid age for this, depending on what you're playing.
Yes.
I mean, standard Rhino is not that difficult.
Yeah, it depends on their skill level as well. If this is their first game, no, they're not going to play it.
Especially this box. This box is definitely more complicated than some of the others. So let's talk about it. What are you going to be doing in the Galaxy's Most Wanted? Well, 4 new villains will be entering the game. There are 2 versions of the Collector. That's why there's only 4, despite there being 5 new scenarios. You'll be facing off against Drang, the Collector, Nebula, and Ronan as you go on a 5-mission campaign. Now, each scenario can be played individually. There are some rules to add campaign cards, such as buying upgrades from the marketplace, which are pretty cool. Also, upgrading your ship, the Milano. That's right, you've got a ship that's going to be with you on some of these missions as well. And I really got to say, the ship was a pretty cool addition and very thematic to Guardians of the Galaxy. Other than that, it's going to be very much the standard Marvel Champions game, where you're going to be dealing damage to the villains, thwarting their schemes in order to complete the objectives and win the scenario. Did I miss anything, Julie?
Don't think so. I think it's time to grab our drinks.
Well, in just a second, I just got to explain to everyone, look, you can see it. The game's set up. We're going to get it to the table one more time. It's already on the table. So now I'm grabbing my drink, grabbing my best friend, fellow partner in crime of the Galaxy's Most Wanted.
And like Jason said, we're going to take it to the table one more time.
One more time. We get to play as Rocket and Groot. Woohoo! Now we're going to take a look at the components for the Galaxy's Most Wanted, the latest expansion for Marvel Champions. As you can see, we've got all of the decks separated into their different stacks, and there are a lot of them. So we'll do a quick overview as to what is what. Then we're going to take a quick look at every deck. We're not going to go into a lot of details. We'll leave a lot of that for you to discover when you actually play the game. So here we've got the 2 hero decks. We've got Groot and Rocket Raccoon. Next, we've got the villains, starting with Drang, the Collector. There are 2 versions of the Collector. You'll notice at the bottom it says infiltrate the museum and then escape the museum. We have Nebula and Ronan the Accuser. These are the 5 villains that you're going to be facing during the game. Then we've got the packs that you'll be able to mix in. We have the Badoon Assassin the Band of Badoon, who are showcasing the Badoon Assassin as their first card. We've got Galactic Artifacts, Kree Militants, Menagerie Medley. We've got Space Pirates, the Badoon Headhunter, and that makes up those expandable villain packs. Next, we've got the Ship Command pack, which is something new, and the first player will be able to command the Milano. Then we've got the Campaign Market, which is the stack of 28 cards. We have the Power Stone, as well as then some campaign standard challenges that I'm sure will be explained in the rulebook. Now let's take a look at the rulebook itself. So here's the rulebook for Galaxy's Most Wanted. You've got some important keywords, the explanation for the new rules on that 3rd page. And then after that, it gives you the explanation as to how to play the campaign. And then, as you can see, we've got some comic book art. We're off on a Guardians of the Galaxy campaign. You also saw Captain Marvel there. So let's start with Groot. Now, Groot is a Guardian. He's the Flora Colossus with a Force Interrupt whenever Groot would take any amount of damage. Remove that many growth counters from him to prevent damage. Now, in his alter ego form, you may place 2 growth counters on Groot up to a maximum of 10. Then, as you can see, he's got a superpower, place 2 growth counters on Groot. That's Fruition. I am Groot. You can remove threat based on the amount of growth counters. I Am Groot deal damage based on the amount of growth counters. So those are a big part of what you'll be doing. Now, Root Stomp deal 5 damage to an enemy, and if the attack defeats that enemy, you can place a growth counter on Groot. So that's the key aspect of your gameplay. You can even remove 4 growth counters to give up to 4, well, obviously removing 4 counters, so up to 4 players a tough status card. Alter Ego action, you can gain some growth tokens. Lots of cool stuff in the deck. We've got Starhawk, so Stakar Gord as our ally, who's got aerial, and he's also a guardian, of course. As you can see, this is a protection deck, so lots of good defense stuff. Fighting Fit's pretty cool. Deal 2 damage to the villain, 5 damage instead if your hero's hit points are equal to or greater than what they had at the start. The power of protection. And this gives you Retaliate 1 if you have max hit points or more. And then after your hero defends against an attack and takes no damage, you can remove 1 threat from the main scheme, which I think is pretty cool. Indomitable, we've seen before, as an ally. You've got Rocket Raccoon, then Flora and Fauna. And this is the team up for Groot and Rocket, which lets you place 2 growth counters on Groot or 2 charge counters on Rocket. And Rocket does charge counters because he's the tech guy. The other basic cards, now here we've got Def Focus, Exhaust Def Focus to reduce the resource cost of the next superpower card you play this turn, which I think is cool. Your obligation is Wilt. Blazing Inferno's the side scheme, and Fernax is your enemy. So that is the Groot deck. Let's take a look at the Rocket Raccoon deck, and we're going to be spending more time on the heroes than the villains. So as you can see, response, after you deal excess damage to an enemy, draw a card. So you got some pretty cool ways to draw lots of cards. Choose and discard a tech upgrade you control to draw 2 cards. That's with this Tinkering. I've got a plan, and I love the fact that you've got someone's arm. After you make a basic thwart, ready Rocket Raccoon, and he gets +1 thwart while in hero form till the end of phase. Reload, you get to ready each tech upgrade again. Until the end of your turn, heal 2 damage from Rocket Raccoon each time you deal any amount of damage to an enemy. Salvage, which is really neat because it's science, resource, and wild. Battery pack to charge up your tech. Then a whole lot of different tech, like you get extra 3 hit points. And just play with 2 charges. You got a particle cannon that deals 4 damage to an enemy and it gains overkill and ranged. Rocket launcher, so if this is charged up, remove 1 charge from it and deal 2 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with a player. You got his pistol, thruster boots, so all sorts of cool stuff. So he's got an aggression deck with the Bug as his ally. After your hero makes a basic attack, you get 1 damage from the Bug. Into the fray, deal 6 damage to a minion, and for each point of excess damage dealt by this attack, get to remove a threat from the main scheme. Looking for Trouble, which is a thwart. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you discard a minion. Put that into play, engage with you, and then remove 3 threat from the main scheme. Relentless Assault, sounds like Rocket. Deal 5 damage to a minion. If you pay for this card using a punch resource, the attack gains overkill. So you get the idea of what we're doing with his deck. We also have some tech weapons. We've got Groot as an ally, Flora and Fauna again, the standard basic cards. And his new other basic that we've got here is Thruster Boots. So when you would take any amount of damage from an attack, exhaust Booster Boots and discard the top card of your deck to prevent 1 of that damage. So his obligations Crisis on Half-World. The side scheme is Vendetta, and it's Blackjack O'Hare, who is his enemy. So here we've got Drang's deck. Now for the villains, we're really just going to look at each of their main powers and abilities, and we'll just take a quick look at their decks. So after Drang schemes, resolve the Badoon Ship's charge up ability. Then his level 2 when revealed. If Drang Spear is in play, he gains a face down boost card. Otherwise, search the encounter deck to get Drang Spear. So we've got Terrestrial Invasion, Protect the Planet. These are the 2 schemes. Here's the Badoon Ship. So it's charge up, place 1 barrage counter here. There are 4 or more barrage counters here. Deal 2 indirect damage to each player and then remove all the counters. That's really annoying. There's his Spear, which gives him +1 attack. And he gains Stalwart. He cannot be stunned or confused. Then we got some minions, Badoon Engineers. We've got a Blockade with the new Hinder mechanic. We've got Bombardment, Impressive Armada, and Spatial Positioning. Now, Drang's going to have a lot of more schemes than anyone else. Let's take a look at the Collector. With regards to the Collector, when a card would be placed into a discard pile from play, put it face up into the collection instead. That's no fun. Then when revealed in player order, each player must choose to either put the top card of their deck face up into the collection or take 3 damage. Not sure how the collection works. I'm sure that it's explained on the scheme. So we got Biogram Image. So when the collector would take any amount of damage, put this card face up into the collection so he can block the damage. We've got Monarch Starstalker as a minion, some boxes, treachery cards viewing the Cosmos, Stay a While, and a Cut-Off Guard card. So discard an upgrade or support card you control. If no cards were discarded that way, gain Surge, but those upgrade and support cards are awesome. So here is our Escape the Museum. The collector gets plus X scheme and plus X attack, where X is equal to the main scheme's current stage number. And when the collector would be defeated, remove 3 threat from the main scheme and flip this card instead. So you got to flip it over. I'm not sure what B1 is. It looks like it's probably the more challenging version. We've got a couple schemes here, and then it's more like environments and treachery cards as we're trying to escape this museum. Now here we've got Nebula. The first technique attachment revealed each round gains Surge. That's no fun. Force Interrupt. When Nebula initiates an activation against you, result the special ability on each technique attachment in play, then discard each of those attachments. And then at level 2, it is exactly the same, so it does not change. We've got her schemes, the Art of Evasion, Warp Drive Initiated. She's got her own ship. Then you can see all these different techniques. Nebula cannot, so Cutthroat Ambition, she can take more than 5 damage from a single attack. Special, place 1 threat on the main scheme. And then the boost that she gets as well. She might have some evasive maneuvers and gain Stalwart. Unyielding Persistence, she can gain Stalwart. Give Nebula a tough status card. If Nebula already has a tough status card, give her 1 face down boost card. So lots of nasty stuff to make her stronger. And then she has a whole slew of, 2 side schemes. I thought there was more. Then a bunch of the treachery cards, some related to her ship, others related to her character, or even your alter ego. So she might scheme or attack you. That's no fun. So the last of the villains, the main big bad, we've got Ronan the Accuser, who's got toughness. And then his Force Interrupt. When Ronan the Accuser activates against you, give him 1 additional boost card if you control the Power Stone. No fun. When revealed, search the encounter deck and discard power for cut the power side scheme and reveal it. And if you're playing on hard, he gets also Retaliate 1. Everything else is the same. He's got 2 schemes, a Kree command ship, universal weapon, fanaticism, attached to Ronan the Accuser. He gets a fury counter, so that doesn't look fun at all. Cut the power side scheme, lots of different side schemes, superior tactics. Single-minded fury, Ronan the Accuser attacks the player who controls the Power Stone, even if that player is in alter ego form, so he just attacks you no matter what. No attack was made, he gains Surge. Kree Psychology, gains Surge, and then when revealed, he gets a tough status card. That's no fun. You stand accused, which boosts his stats. So lots of nastiness coming from Ronan the Accuser. Then we'll take a look at the decks that we can customize and put in here. So we have the Band of Badoon, so Badoon Assassins, Badoon Grunts, Badoon Lieutenants. So these are just all the minions, really, that are going to be facing you with Drang. Now here we've got the Galactic Artifacts. So these get attached to enemies or attached to your identities, and they'll do nasty things. So Force Interrupt, for example, with the poison. When your turn begins, place 1 poison counter here and take 1 damage. So you really want to get rid of that stuff, and then there's a bunch of side schemes related to different artifacts that are in the collection. Here we've got the Kree minions. So some of these are like armor. Other than that, we got Kree commandos, Kree lieutenants, Kree privates, and these really just make up the minions that are most likely going to be with Nebula and Ronan. I'm filming this before we get a full playthrough of the campaign, so I'm not sure where each of these decks are going to be placed. Here we've got the Menagerie Medley, so Psionic Ghost, Servant Bot, and a Star Shark that are going to be mixed in, and these may not actually be in the campaign. They may just be something fun that you have an option to mix in. Then we got some Space Pirates. They got Quick Strike, meaning they go first, some of them. A lot of them have Quick Strike, so that's no fun. They've got a side scheme. And then a nasty treachery card. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a criminal minion is discarded. Reveal that minion and give the minion a tough status card. And the villain a face down boost card. Eesh. Not sure how I feel about that. And lastly, we have the Badoon Headhunter. So we got different minions. When defeated, add this card to the victory display. So I'm not quite sure how that works exactly yet. And this is definitely looking like it's part of a specific mission in the campaign. Now here we've got the ship command. So we do have the Milano. And then we've got these different environments, side schemes, treachery cards that all seem to be related to damage coming to the Milano, which I believe will be mixed in during the campaign. Here we have the campaign market cards, and there are 28 of them, and these are just different upgrades that we can get. So, hero action, exhaust heavy cannon, deal 1 damage to each enemy. If you control the Milano, deal 1 additional damage to the villain. So, that's pretty cool for the first player. Exhaust reactor core and discard the top 2 cards of your deck. The top card instead, if you control the Milano, to reduce the resource cost of the next event you play this turn. You can get something simple like Brainstorm, which is thwart. Name a card type, look at the top card of your deck. If it's the right type, you get to remove 3 threat from the main scheme. So these are all the upgrades that you can get as you're going through the game. Grand strategy, drop to your maximum hand size and remove the card from the game. Power unleashed, deal 5 damage to the villain and remove 5 threat from the main scheme, then remove the card from the game. Pretty cool stuff. So all of these really are the big cards that will let you save the day. Now, we've got the Power Stone, one of the Infinity Stones. So, and setup is attached to the villain. It's permanent. And then after a hero or villain deals 3 or more damage to the attached character with a single attack, attach the Power Stone to the attacking hero or villain. Now, here we've got some campaign-related side schemes. So we've got standard challenges, the Badoon Blitz, Gallery of Splendor, There Is No Escape, Guerrilla Tactics and we also have Kree Supremacy. Now, I'm not quite sure how these are going to be incorporated. We've really just taken a look at the box, want to get these all sleeved before we play with them. So this is going to be pre-recorded. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at all the components. As you can see, we've got lots of great new cards for Marvel Champions, the card game with the Galaxy's Most Wanted. Now keep it right here. Julie and I are going to be coming back with our review of this expansion. So Marvel Champions, the Galaxy's Most Wanted. What did you think of this so far?
Well, I was excited to have the Galaxy's Most Wanted expansion. I was a little surprised when you told me it was just Groot and Rocket, but then I thought, yeah, that could be cool.
Well, the others are coming. Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax. They'll be coming out in a couple of weeks. I believe we got Star-Lord next, followed by Gamora, then Drax. And they also have, for comic fans, Agent Venom, who is also a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
So it's nice to get new villains. I was, starting to get tired of playing against Red Skull.
Red Skull, Rhino. Yeah, there's a lot of the same.
So that was interesting. They're not all the villains were, or not all the scenarios, I should say, were as equally appealing.
Well, I think we should just discuss how we review the game. Sorry to cut you off. For those that are new to the channel, when we review a Marvel Champions expansion, such as Galaxy's Most Wanted, we don't deck build. We take the box that is given and we play with the standard decks, and our rating is going to be based on what is in this box. Now, there's definitely going to be some ways to mitigate some of our complaints if you are a...
If we have some.
Yeah, well, we definitely have complaints. A little bit of a spoiler. What I wanted to say, though, is if you are a hardcore Marvel Champions player, this is your game. You play it a lot. You play it solo, play it 2 players. You like to build your own decks, test different theories out. Now, this is the expansion that was designed for you, because one of the complaints, and I'll go into that spoiler, is the pre-constructed hero decks. Now, I'll let Julie finish her thought.
Well, go ahead. You're on it, so go.
Yeah, the hero decks suck. Like, straight up, they're almost unplayable in terms of what the objectives are in the scenario. The hero cards themselves are great. I think that you have most of what you need in the generic common cards, but the aspect cards, I feel like they really let you down in terms of what you're getting.
I think that was flavored a little bit by your experience. I was lucky enough to play the the hero that was best suited for each campaign. So
Each
Jason and
scenario.
yeah. So Jason and I tend to, when we're reviewing, we like to each play the characters at least once, if not twice. So we go back and forth between the two heroes. So I played Rocket on a scenario that was heavily favoring basically thwart, and so that made it, Rocket.
Well, it was not have favor and thwart. It was you got punished for being in an alter ego form because you didn't want the villain to scheme in the first scenario against Drang. And I was Groot, and yeah, not being able to go to alter ego very easily without having some dire consequences, that was not fun.
Yeah. So all that being said, I really enjoyed two scenarios with the characters that I was playing, and I don't have the same complaints. I can see there's a little bit of frustration at some point where when I was playing Groot, that I was just getting the protection deck cards, and that's just part of Marvel Champions, right? It's the way your cards come up. It's part of the luck of the draw of the cards as well.
True, but to counter that point, you can make a really nice protection deck with the other cards that we have. What we got in the box was a pretty bad protection deck for the scenarios in this box. I think he'd be great. He's incredibly tanky, Groot. If you want to have Groot just stand around and take damage in a scenario in the base box, I'd even think he'd make mincemeat out of the Once and Future Kang, just because of the way he's able to take a ton of damage and still be ready to go.
Yeah, I just don't think it's quite as bad as you're making it out to be. I think, can it be optimized? Yes, but that's true of Marvel Champions, right? You can always, with all of the characters, optimize it a little bit more based on what's available.
That's true, but if you're picking up the core game and then picking up this box, if you these are your two favorite characters, your first experience in the game, you're not going to like the game.
Maybe. I didn't mind it. I think Jason's being a little tough on it.
Well, I like to get solid, balanced products off the shelf, and this isn't one of them. This is not a balanced product.
Okay. So, I mean, on the positives, I really do enjoy some of the abilities that they have for both Rocket and Groot. I think, as you mentioned, with Groot, he can be quite tanky with the growth tokens on him. And with Rocket's ability to just, he has a lot of upgrades. And once you get the upgrades going, even more so I find than when we played Iron Man, it was more fun to get, his upgrades. Rocket's obviously not very strong without his upgrades, but once you put in those upgrades, it's a lot of fun, and there's definitely ways that you can get more in.
Now, it was really tough playing the collector scenario with Rocket because one of his key abilities is getting rid of tech cards that he's used, which is great because it's thematic to Rocket, and they really captured Rocket and Groot and thematically as heroes. But that scenario, it's like, oh, if you discard a card, it goes to the collection, which really completely hampers his ability. So I got stuck with the two scenarios where, yes, you want to be an alter ego to get growth tokens. Yes, you want to discard cards. And those things were the worst things you could do in the scenarios. I just don't understand why Rocket and Groot are the two characters in Galaxy's Most Wanted the way it was designed. I think they made a great, actually, to complement this is a Guardians of the Galaxy campaign. When I saw the box, I thought this was going to be a Rocket and Groot campaign, maybe. No, this is designed for all the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I kind of think that for whatever reason, with the aspect and the deck design, you got the two worst for the campaign in the box.
Maybe.
I haven't looked at the other cards yet.
It'll be interesting to see when they have, Star-Lord and Gamora come out, as well. It'll be interesting.
Yep.
So I mean, I really enjoyed those cards. I think they're great. I enjoyed the scenarios. The first two scenarios I enjoyed a lot. I was not a fan of the third scenario, and I think if I had only played that one, this game would have a very poor rating because I will agree with you for the third scenario. I think the cards, we just don't have the right cards, the right heroes to be fighting this scenario, at least not in a pleasant way.
Yeah, so we definitely need to optimize the deck. And just so you know, because we've only played the first three scenarios. We're going to continue this. Normally, we would have played the entire campaign, but just where we got to in the third scenario, it was really a good time for us to stop and do our review because we're going to need to deck build, and we want to do a review on the box as is, as we mentioned. When you get to Nebula and you get to Ronin, it gets even harder. Nebula is like Rocket with all sorts of weapons and techniques, and it's just constantly punching you in the head the whole time. So that's where having cards and abilities to confuse and get tough status cards and things like that, stunning the character can go a long way, which these decks do not have. And from what I've seen, people are talking about how Ronin the Accuser is incredibly hard. So we haven't got there, but you may see us, do a quick video, something that'll come up on a Tuesday when we've done some deck building, rebuilt our decks, as you're allowed to do that in the rules of the campaign, and defeated Nebula and Ronin with Rocket and Groot. We're not going to change our heroes. We're just going to change up our decks to make it more fun.
I don't have anything really else to add.
So the one thing I want to say is the scenarios are great. The villains are great. The design is very interesting. Everything plays differently. There is nothing like this out currently for Marvel Champions. And if you are a collector like us and this is your game, this is a must-have for your collection. You're going to have a blast with this. They made this for you. If you're a newer Marvel Champions player, this should be one of the last things you add to your collection. Get Rise of the Red Skull, get some more hero packs, get into the game, and pick this up later. This isn't something that you want to pick up when you get the core box, because this is going to be like, I'm having fun, I'm figuring the game out, to the game is crushing me. The difficulty is on complete opposite ends of the scale. And I know that's what a lot of people ask for, and I'm really happy that we're getting more difficult content. We really enjoyed the Once and Future Kang. I just think that the decks should have been better optimized for what you're getting in the box. And I don't know why they weren't. I'd say these are the first decks that we have that are like the core decks that I would say, at least in terms of the box and the content they're meant to be played, are unplayable. I've seen people discussing the fact that you cannot win the campaign on standard or expert with the base decks. And considering the fact that I think we may have made a mistake even in our victory of the last scenario that kind of went in our favor, we might have actually died. And we only won by the skin of our teeth, each with one hit point. I can completely see that as being a valid complaint about this. And I don't really have much more to add. I think they've done a great job. They've listened to the fans. We've got a solid expansion. The Guardians are coming into the game. Some challenging scenarios. Just, it's missing something. And it's a little disappointing for me.
So on that note, why don't you give it your score?
This is a 6.5. This is absolutely a bottom tier rating for me in terms of Marvel Champions. If you are a hardcore collector, this is definitely an essential. If you're just looking to pick up something, play and have a good time, you're going to be more frustrated by this box than anything else. You're better off with Rise of the Red Skull. This falls sort of like Miss Marvel for me, a character that could be a lot of fun but needs a lot of work to get her into a state that you're really going to want to play her.
I definitely think this is definitely much better than Miss Marvel.
This is just ahead of Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel's the worst expansion in my opinion.
This one's
solid.
Yeah, this one's definitely better. So I'm gonna.
I rate everything else above it. That's the main issue for me.
I'm going to say that this is, it's definitely not the highest. I think it could have been. I think, there are some things that need to be tweaked, but I'm not going to go as far as saying it's a 6.5. It's definitely a 7. It was fun and it's thematic. But like Jason says, it's a little bit more advanced, so it's not the first game you should pick up.
Yeah.
So on that note, it's time to remind you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see pictures of Julie and I playing Marvel Champions, the Galaxy's Most Wanted, and just Marvel Champions in general, there are plenty of pictures on those feeds. Also down below in the video description, you'll find a link to multizone.ca. We've got our discount code. You can go look and pick up the Galaxy's Most Wanted. Get 10% off your purchase. And a great thing about that is you will be donating to the channel as well, because a portion of that purchase gets returned to us. So support us. We always love it. Also, make sure to take a look at the videos that will be popping up shortly. So over here will be the video that is our most recent release. And in front of Julie, it'll take you back to our review and how to play of Marvel Champions, the card game. And now what time is it?
Now it's time to grab our drinks.
A little too close here. Grab our best friend.
I'm going to keep playing games.
Keep playing games.